Hey everybody, welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. Today I have a special guest with us, so go ahead and tell us who you are, what we're doing.
Cool. Hi. So I'm Mike Wilson. I'm the founder and director of graphicword, a ministry that is happening up in Canada with Youth for Christ, and specifically the Quinte region. So if you're wondering where that is, it's in this big province called Ontario, and we're in like the southern eastern part of Ontario. And so what we're doing is just doing nerd ministry, primarily online. But any way that we can connect with nerdy youth and invest in them. So, yeah.
So you don't sound Canadian.
I have no idea why I don't sound Canadian. Maybe I need to throw A's in here a little bit more than what I would usually. What's Canadian sounding like?
I don't know. Whatever they do in the movies, it's like
whatever they do in the movies.
If it's you're not British unless you say cuppa every few minutes or whatever.
Right. Like a spotted saying, like you got to drink it up for it and stuff like that.
You got to do it right. So are you a Canadian
right.
native? Like,
Yep. So born and raised here in Ontario. I grew up actually out in the country. So, I was used to bovine everywhere, and I was very fortunate to grow up in like a 10-acre lot, and so run around, do different things, and particularly nerdy stuff. Like, I was very fortunate to have bow and arrows when I was growing up, and so I'd every once in a while do some wild shooting out in the back, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was used to cows. You'd smell manure in the spring, and that was a great wake-up call at 6:30 in the morning for your bus ride. So yeah.
I think I probably would have been on the whole bow and arrow thing, but I lived in the city and growing up, and I was maybe like 6, and I made a makeshift bow and arrow out of some shoestring and a twig and the whole like Oliver Queen season 1 type situation. And nice. I was shooting it in my front yard, and the cops were called.
Oh no.
Like, I wasn't shooting it at anyone. I literally hadn't, I don't even think I'd actually fired a shot off yet. Some, neighbor just saw me like crafting weaponry, and I remember being 6, and the cops literally rolled in my front yard like, "Sir, that's a weapon and you can't point it at vehicles." And I'm like,
wow.
So I was like, "No, I'll stop."
Oh yeah.
Then I ran a Bible camp, man. And we had bows and arrows, and so got down with it there. But tell me about Youth for Christ. Tell me about what graphicword is doing with it. Tell me the whole deal about what your ministry does.
Yeah, for sure. So our Youth for Christ, the way that we got operating up in Canada is we have like chapters in areas of ministry that we're doing it. So like there's the Canadian just national level where they're doing outreach. They're looking at how are we kind of leading as a group and development and stuff like that. And then you have your mini chapters, which ours is Quinte. So we're focused in area. If you ever want to check out a map and see where that is, I know I had to do some research before even receiving the job about it. We're as high north as like Center Hastings, as low as Prince Edward County, and as far, now I gotta remember, west. Yeah, west. There we go. As Brighton, and as far east as Tyendinaga. And so we have a fairly large groups, and we have different directors that do different styles of ministry. So when I first got into Youth for Christ, I was what's called a campus director. So I was specifically in like a few townships where I was interacting with their high schools, and I would bring programs as many days as I could to those high schools. And naturally, I love board games. So I would do a board game day, and then I would do like a Bible day. And so we would hang out the one day, and it was your invite. Hey man, like you want to check out this board game? I got this one. Like, you're going to really love on this one. And it started out to be like first 5 students, but we got to a point where we were almost at 20 students for lunch and just hanging out in one of our classrooms and just being able to chill, do our own thing. And then I would go, hey guys, so if you like this and you want to go a little bit deeper, we're going to take it over to a Bible talk on Tuesday. And so they would come out. Some of them would be interested. Some of them would even just wonder what on earth we'd be talking about. Like we would talk about the awkward parts of the Bible, like when you find out God was going to kill Moses before he even made it to Egypt, and they're like, no way, that's not a thing.
The circumcision thing? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Dude, that's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, it's so good because it's so
like,
awkward.
Hold on, I've sent an angelic assassin. Let me grab a rock real quick.
Yeah. Well, and then just let me put it on his foot because that's going to make everything better. Like, what are you doing with that kind of information? And so
because
we'd
that's
be like,
profitable for teaching and just doctrine and instruction right there.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But it was a catchy point for students because they would almost approach the Bible as like a holier than thou kind of thing. It doesn't have any bad spots, and it's like, no, there's some pretty messed up stories that go on within the Bible that you kind of have to go, what's the point of this one here, and just be able to dive into it deeper. And so, yeah, I was doing that kind of ministry for about 5 years, and I was feeling more of a pull to want to do nerd ministry kind of things. And I'd kind of done this in my last year of college. I started up actually graphicword as a semi like teaching video thing that I would do on YouTube every once in a while, and just jump on biblical themes and let's connect it to nerd culture and speak the language together. And it kind of just faded in and out every once in a while, but it was on my head, like to the point where when I'm working, that's all I could think of was just like, oh man, like Green Lantern moment would be such a sick teaching point right here. Let's talk about what is hope, and like what is the symbol of faith and all that, and how do we hold on to this in the midst of darkness. And I would just start these conversations naturally. And it got to a point where I talked to my director and I said, listen, man, can I just have 1 month where I'm able to do this kind of ministry, all focused in, just to prove concept that this could potentially be a full-time ministry that we focus on. So he kind of took it back and was like, yeah, I'll think about it. He actually ended up talking to our board of directors and was kind of laying the foundation of, let's actually make this just a ministry, and put like the pitch in and everything for it. So we've been doing graphic word for now 2 years as an official ministry under Youth for Christ. And with that, we've been doing program nights where we're playing board games, and we'll choose one specific board game. And out of that board game, we draw a teaching principle. So have you ever played Survive?
No.
Oh, Survive is a solid game. So essentially you're like on this island, and each person is taking a tile and seeing what they can get for resources or what kind of trouble that creates for the rest of the crew. And you're trying to get your little dudes off of this island to other small little land plots in order to save them, and whoever has the most valued points of people wins. Well, we made that into a salvation message talk. And it's like we're talking about how the earth around us is eroding, and it talks about how in the Bible that one day it's all going to be destroyed, it's all going to be wrecked and ruined. But what's going to be your saving grace? Because if you don't have anything that's going to be keeping you out of the water, you're going to be having some trouble, and it's a major issue. And really, Christ is your lifeboat. He is the one that's going to be keeping you above it all and saving you through that process. And yeah, we just create teachable moments out of really anything nerdy. So, oh.
So I know that one of the things you're doing with the Walk to Mordor is it's a fundraising. So are you support based? Are you like have a salary? Like what's your pay scale look like with this?
So I am support based. So originally at the start of YFC, I was doing that full time. But then transitioning over to graphic word, the difference in our chapter than other chapters typically is we had a higher church ratio support than most other groups, because essentially a director a while ago said, I don't want it where my employees have to worry about what their next paycheck is going to look like and whether they're going to have money for food. So if you want a YFC ministry going on in your community, you need to be helping put the front for this. So then, yes, they're going to be raising support on their end, but I need you to come alongside and support it too, so that they can move on and keep on supporting their family. So with that, like other ministries that we have under us are already supported on that, but since graphicword is a new one, it's solely dependent on what did I ask for my partners in ministry to come alongside and sponsor with. So that's why I'm only at halftime with graphicword. Otherwise, if we had more support, I would definitely be jumping on it.
Well, and that's, most the concept of support-based ministry is pretty foreign to a lot of people. And like, especially depending, like here we have like so many different like ministerial associations, and usually missionaries will get funded like 100% through their association. Like there's who is it? Maybe it's IMB. I could be wrong, but I've got friends that are IMB missionary, trying to become IMB missionaries, and they wouldn't have to raise support at all. They'd get like here's your paycheck, go minister, bye.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
My first full-time ministry was with a Bible camp, and we actually had to raise our support, and we did a very, not exact but similar concept with how you guys do with Youth for Christ, but we did this thing called release time, where and whatever the legislature that exists in our society, in our little culture, is built somewhere into the like fine print of our stuff is, as a nation, is that every child is allowed 52 hours of religious education during class time a year.
Wow.
So during it's on the law somewhere that if Billy's mom wants Billy to miss PE to go hear a Bible story, that's a thing.
Wow.
But that also falls into every school district, every superintendent, every school. Like they have to sign off on it. It's in the law, but getting from what's on paper to what's in action. So release time was this thing where in my region, the beginning of the school year, parents would sign a permission slip if they wanted their kid to go to Bible class and miss a school class. And we would literally roll up in like a tractor trailer, 18-wheeler thing with the trailer straight up inside looks like a little church, like itty bitty pews, little screen, all that stuff. And so I spent, I went to that when I was in middle school personally. Like I went to the same one that I would eventually work with. And so our ministry during the school year was, we went to 32 different schools, and we would teach our Bible lesson to however many people fit in that little tractor trailer once a month, and repeat throughout the whole school year. And so I spent like 9 years doing that full time. We would run summer camp, and then but I would legit teach the same Bible lesson 8 times a day at one school. And it was like, but it was the thing, like it was like all shotgun evangelism of like, here's the gospel, bye, and you don't see them again for a month. And but like, whereas what you're talking is a lot more discipleship based, and that's awesome. But that we had to raise support for that. So like going around telling people, hey, I need to go into your school and teach your children about the Bible, so would you like to support? And it was that thing of like, and when I started support-based ministry, I was single, and then I got married, and then I had kid after kid. We had 3 kids, and like the idea of just doing that was hard. And and honestly, there's been times I've looked at ministries and been like, man, I would love to be a part of that ministry, and then I'm like, oh, it's support-based. Lord's not calling me to that. There's this really great ministry in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's kind of like a big tourist spot for a lot of people, but there's an organization called Ground Zero that is in the middle of the hub of all tourism that is Myrtle Beach in our region. The city of Myrtle Beach gave this ministry a $4 million building for $1.
Wow.
So they straight up received a $4 million building for $1, under the terms that they were going to do stuff for teens and kids to actually have wholesome biblical activities in the middle of the tourist spot. And I mean, it's literally the whole thing of like, all they do is put on cool activities, and then they do the school discipleship stuff like in similar fashion. But it's like, man, I love that, but I'm not in the place. So has support raising been a discouragement to you at all? Has it been a difficulty?
It can be. So we were pretty fortunate when we first started out. So it was just me and my wife when I first started off. And when we brought in our support, you have, at least the way YFC around here does it, you have 6 weeks to bring in the support that you need in order to do your job. Yeah, it's a big push. Like it's intense. And you feel it, because then after the 6 weeks, depending on how your funds come in, they might prolong it, or they have to then go, well, we'll start you off at maybe like halftime or three-quarter time, depends on how it goes. So for us, when we were asking, like you're asking everybody that you know, friends, family, cousins that you forgot about, and like you just kind of spread word on what you're doing. We actually had our funds fully in for me to work full time within 4 weeks. Like, it was the fastest time our chapter had ever seen anyone bring in funds. And I give that to our family. Our family was very supportive of what we're trying to do. They knew that this was kind of the heart of our ministry and what we've been trying to do, to reach out students literally in their area and to be able to connect with them on their level. And so, like, they were able to do that. And it has been a challenge, because anytime, like, you want a salary, you need to make sure your funds are up so that you can, like, increase it per year to what the government is asking, like, for that increase to be happening. And so you can be like, oh, do we have enough funds? What are we doing about that? And really, it's just us talking to partners. That's what we really equate to it, is just continued conversation with our partners, and establishing that as a relationship with them, and being able to kind of share with them. And with so many different people that have come up, like, we had a banner that we were looking at putting up for our booth. I'm like, man, that would be sick. Too bad we don't have the funds. And my wife's like, well, why don't we talk to some of our partners, at least share with them on, this is something that we'd like to see that helps promote our ministry and kind of gives a professional look. It's like, sure, we could do that. Yeah, we had no problem people jumping on supporting the banner. Like, they were more than willing to pay all the cost for it. And it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, we need to just put out that ask a little bit more. And part of it, I think, like, my dad, when we first brought up the idea of, hey, so we're doing like missionary kind of level ministry and it's all funds, I remember his reaction was, so you're going to ask people to give you money so that you are working? And it's just like, yeah, is that a problem? And so, like, my dad's just like, if you work hard, you're going to get paid for it. So why do you need to go ask for other people who have worked hard for their money to do that? And we had to do a little bit of back and forth and conversation with that. But now he's our biggest supporter in what we're doing, and trying to establish more and more in what we're doing for ministry. And that's just a conversation that happens over time. It's just being able to establish what's the need, where are we seeing that growth and development in these students, and in conversations that wouldn't be happening before if we didn't meet them at their level. So
that's one of the hard parts when it comes to, like, the whole ask. Like, I spent so much time in my early years, because I started my full-time ministry, like, with support raising and everything else, of, like, I was 19, maybe 18. Like, I was a freshman in Bible college, and they're like, hey, if you don't, like, literally quit school and come do this ministry now, we have to shut down. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wow. I literally got that phone call. Wow. Like, we know you're in Bible college and you're coming here eventually, but we have to shut down if you don't come now. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But, like, it did some emotional damage of having to, like, go that young. I wasn't sure of myself in anything. And so, like, support raising all those years was rough. Now I'm the chairman of the board for that camp. 20 years some later, I'm the chairman of the board for that, which never do that. It's a horrible life choice. being the chairman of a board sucks.
Oh
And
boy.
if any of my ministry kids or adults or parents are listening, I meant what I said. I love it. I love being able to serve in that capacity, but having to like make executive decisions and budgets and deal with staffing issues and nah, man, bump that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Volunteer, support financially. Don't be the chairman of a board. But with that, it's just I struggled with it, and so when like Faith and Fandom came about, I was just like, I'll just pay for everything myself. Like,
yeah.
I'll just pay for everything myself. And like, it started well when Faith and Fandom started. I was at a church that fully, with no shame, saying I got paid too much. Like, as I had a church that valued my work, and I put in a lot of good hustle, and I did, God did great things in the collegiate ministry I was working with. And not that I'm not going to claim it was me, because a guy that's working at the same college now, like a decade later, he's like, how did you get all of these different races and ethnicities and stuff, and how did you get this many people? And I was like, bro, I don't know what I was doing. That's Jesus.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's not literally what I told him. I was like, man, I have no idea how that happened. That's the Lord. But like the church was paying me well to the point that I could build a side ministry, travel, do all that stuff, and not actually hurt my family. And so I didn't have a lot of remorse with it or concern with it then. And then as soon as the first book got published, I got hired as a screenwriter. And there was if you've ever seen like YouTube, like Screen Junkies and stuff like that. I got hired by their parent company. So I did 130 episodes of screenwriting for their network, and basically screenwriting for them for 3 years paid for like 5 years of Faith and Fandom. And so like God was providing in ways other than support raising, and and so I was like, you know what, I don't really have to sweat this. This still isn't hurting my family. Well, the screenwriting thing went so well that they got bought out. The videos, they got bought out. Another company bought like the company that I was working for. And so like, it's really funny. I've watched all the videos because there's 130 videos I made, and the label keeps changing on what network it is. But like when they got bought out, they're like, you can keep working for us, but you have to move to LA. And because we want all our writers in house. And what they would have paid me wouldn't pay for like a week of living there. So I'm like, okay, not there, because from where I live, the cost of living is dirt, and there it's not a thing. But then like the church I currently work with, I took, legitimately speaking, I took a 50% pay cut to work here. From where I was as a college pastor to being the lead pastor of the church I'm at, it was a 50% pay cut. And it was like, I knew that going into it. And I was like, do I want to stay here? And like, but I knew God was done with me there. And like, it's just that thing of like, I always believe, and when you know you're done, don't hang on. And, and so when I left, it was a 50% pay cut. And, Faith and Fandom held its own for a minute, like as far as on a ministry level. But then like 2019 was the first year where it hurt. Like it hurt a lot financially. We had a couple large expense outreaches that and realistically with the books and everything, I don't ever shoot to make a profit. I shoot to cover costs. Like if I get to a point where I've paid for let's for instance, just talking 2019, there was one show I did that was a $300 table space. So just to be in the room was $300. And then I had to drive 5 hours, and then I had to stay in a hotel for 3 days. So, and then, all the supplies to actually have the booth. I didn't have a bad show, just myself. The whole show went wrong.
Oh
Like,
no.
a celebrity stood up 5 minutes into the show and said, "This is a terrible show, but I'm still getting paid." And
Wow.
like a
Wow.
famous celebrity, like somebody I grew up in childhood admiring, like threw a
Yeah, yeah.
tantrum, and I'm like, okay, cool, good talk. And so like this was the first year, like 2019 was the first year, like my wife had to sit me down and like say like, hey, this is starting to hurt.
Yeah.
So like we were literally, uh, I wasn't giving up on financial reasons, but one of the things was that when we were looking at what we were going to do with Faith and Fandom for 2020 was like, all right, we're going to go strong and do all the cons and conventions and everything we can for 2020, because
Yeah.
I doubt we can afford it
Oh
moving
yeah,
forward.
for sure.
So I was pretty much planning on scrapping the con appearances and everything else, uh,
Wow.
for the sake that simply my family couldn't afford the
Oh
time or
yeah.
the finances. And
Yeah,
then like, the world shut down. And it's like, oh look, it's in our budget again. Uh, and and since then, like, people have hit us up to be like, can we support you on Patreon, or can we like because I didn't have a Patreon. I'd never even thought twice. I was like, I don't produce art worth, do. I was like,
yeah.
I
Yeah,
put out a book once a year, and I don't think memes count. And
yeah.
but people have hit us up, and people have been supportive and stuff like that, and that's been amazing. But like, the fact is that if you really believe in a ministry you're doing, like you like with when you had the conversation with your dad, like just the people may not understand how it's going to go and what you're going
Yeah.
to do with it. So, but if you believe in it, one of the college missionary that asked me how I did what I did, like when he approached his home church about supporting the collegiate outreach, they said Paul made tents.
Yeah.
They said, and he's like, yeah, but Paul also got support from the church. He's like, nah, you go make tents, and whatever you don't make with the tents, we'll see about helping with. So they said,
Wow.
his home church told him that if you want to minister to this college, go get a full-time job, minister in your free time, and then what you don't we'll cover. And it's like, and I'm
Wow.
like, oh no.
Oh man,
So,
that's hard.
before we jump into the Walk to Mordor, just to ask you,
Yeah, for sure.
what would you consider your biggest ministry highlight since you've been doing graphic word?
Oh, dude. Oh, that's tough. Um, to be honest, this actually came out more recently. One of our students, they came in through our board game club that we met up and hung out. And this student never thought of hanging out with our kind of crew. Like they never thought of themselves as a nerdy kind of person,
Yeah.
so to speak. They just hung out because there were other peeps that they were interacting with, and so they're like, "Yeah, sweet, that's cool." But when we were engaging with them and investing time, just like chatting their perspectives, their beliefs, even just like how they're doing in life, it kind of propelled them into like feeling more accepted, more loved, more encouraged. And to be honest, I didn't even know this kind of progress had been going on until I had an interview with them back in June for a fundraiser that we were doing virtually. And um, they essentially said, it's our group that have been a warm, caring environment that is legitimately looking for their growth and development and putting it in a context that they could understand. That kind of gave them a little bit of hope during this whole pandemic thing, because everything had shut down. Like we were honestly like, shoot, what are we going to do? And so we operated to do online ministry. So video gaming, every Tuesday, I now video game with students, and we just kind of create like a chill and chat zone where we can hang out and stuff like that. And then on Thursdays, we do RPG night, where I run a RPG campaign with our students, and like it was in that environment, that intentionality, that we would ask questions and relate things to them to go, okay, so like you just learned this tonight, what are you going to do about it? And we're going to do follow-up and find out how it went. it was an encouragement that there was something consistent, something that was there and helping them. And that was just like, oh snap. Like you hope that there's that difference being made, that even like something a small gesture is being like impacted into them. And to be able to just hear that was like, I almost started bawling in the middle of the interview. I'm like, oh man, I got, okay, straight face. But and so that's what's kind of helped encourage us even along the way, of just reminding that we don't know what kind of impact is being fully made. All we can do is keep on showing up, keep on doing the ministry that we know that God has put on our heart to do, and he does the work. Like we can do as much as we can, but ultimately it's his guidance that's going to direct their hearts. It's going to be encouraging them and massaging it from being a heart of stone to a heart of flesh, right? And so yeah.
All right. What would you say is your biggest setback?
Oh, our biggest setback into ministry right now is just trying to get more word out there. I really think that's where we're having difficulty in, because we're on the fringe kind of ministry up here like that. Like really the encouragement that I got in doing this ministry was actually like from your stuff, Hector, like legitimately having faith and fandom devotions and going like, guys, this is like legit stuff that we're talking about. And we would even like sit down and do group discussions off of your devotions. And they're like, wait, there's other people that talk like this and like connect us? Like, yes, there's so many.
You always feel like you're alone until you realize you're not.
Yeah. And so for us, it's trying to translate that to sometimes the older generation, because we do church presentations and trying to help them understand or be aware of like, this is a legitimate need that we've got here. Like, let's talk about video game addiction. Let's talk about like proper use of video gaming. Why do you video game? What kind of video games are you doing? Even like, what is your nerdum? What does your nerdum talk about out of that? And like analyzing even like why you're so drawn to that, and having like a discussion on how does that connect to faith. And I gotta give a shout out to my man Corey Bizot. So he was my mentor when I was in high school, and like, of course, high school nerd kind of stuff, you don't want to talk to anybody because you're like, oh shoot, are they going to think I'm weird? I'm like so into this kind of stuff like that. And if it weren't for Corey, like this guy that would invite me over to his place after school, and we would watch Bleach and just like chill, hang out, watching Ichigo do some ridiculous huge fight, and talk about like what's the spiritual implications of this other than he's like ripped and no one can defeat him. but like diving into that deeper implication and understanding like the heart of that anime series, it really drove more into like, yes, this is the kind of stuff that I love talking about, and it challenged me to do that for others. So yeah, it's been a challenge just trying to get others to the level of excitement in the same way that I'm at. I know my boss, he would say he's a football nerd. He's accepted the nerd identity. But the idea of translating it, that really nerd just means a person of passion in a particular field, and trying to translate that to the generation and be like, this is a good thing. Like, invest in your kids in that. Like, let's sit in that and talk about why are they into that, and really bring Christ into that conversation. So
one of the things that I've like come across and like just struggled with the idea and the stuff that's going on is like not being concerned with the people that don't get it. That if you're concerned with everybody that doesn't get what you're doing, you know, you're gonna your whole time's gonna be bound up in that.
For sure.
And like my first few years doing Comic-Cons, like, and to be honest, it still affects me. But like, there's like 3 reactions you always get at a Comic-Con when somebody walks past a Jesus booth, whether it's your, you know, anybody. So they're like they'll see me like, huh, and just pass and like not be upset, but also not care. That's okay. Then you get the person that's like, why are you here? Like literally, like I had one out of 7 years doing this, like almost every other weekend, I've only had one time somebody flipped my table.
Wow.
Somebody straight like grabbed it, like a 3-second reaction, like flipped everything, like did hundreds
Wow.
of dollars worth of damage. But that's only been once.
Oh my goodness.
But I've had people like be toxic and everything, and then I've had people like, then you get the other end, we're like, oh my gosh, this is real. I need this in my life. I need it. Kids, come here, and like they do all that stuff, and like we're at what are the jokes is we're every parent's favorite booth at a con. Kids might not want to talk to us, but their parents want to, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is here. My kids are into some really weird stuff. We hear that a lot. But like, I used to literally ignore all of the times we were blessings and hang up completely on the people that were like, ew. Like, I was at a show maybe a month ago, and I've only done 4 shows the whole year. Like, instead of like last year we had 28, and then this year we had 4. And I had a day where I had these like amazing conversations. People literally cried at the table. I ran into some other pastors that like had that moment of like, wait, other people feel this way? I mean, like I had those moments, and I had one teenage girl dressed in anime cosplay, God, and like,
wow.
And I straight up spent like 3 days like, God, like, and replaying that in my head, ignoring everything else that had happened. And one of the things that I've really had to like sink my teeth into spiritually is not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's meant to get it. But the thing is, if you can focus on the people that actually hear that heart, and they connect with it, you know, let the other voices drown out. And because it's the same thing of if you walk into a room and make half of a quote, you know, the people that reply, that's your people. Focus on this.
Like, for sure.
If you stick your head into a room and yell, I want to be the very best, like the people that keep going with that's your people. But you know, I appreciate what you're doing and the way you're doing it. And you know, I know that getting your word out is still a big deal and like kind of building your base. And you know, it's also, there's like a whole continent between here and there, and so everybody doesn't hear and see the same things. Let's talk about a Walk to Mordor, and let's also talk about in general just why people should support graphic word.
For sure. So Walk to Mordor, this idea actually came out of me and my wife on our vacation, and we were just coming up with ideas of like how we can really do a fundraiser in the midst of a pandemic, because no one teaches you that at Bible college. You just either that or I skipped that class. I don't know what happened to that.
I was retaking eschatology at that point. I'm like,
that's right. So you know, we were trying to think of anything, and one thing that really stood out to me, Facebook is wonderful for ads and stuff that tries to motivate me and tells me, hey, I should be doing other things. One of the things that really stood out to me was these Conquer medals. Have you ever checked out the Conquer medals?
No.
So Conquer medals are essentially virtual tour medals. So you walk, run, or do something else to a certain amount of distance, and you pay to get a medal at the end.
I've seen this.
And I was like, oh man, that would be really cool if there was like a Lord of the Rings one, because like every nerd wants to be able to say they did like the distance between Hobbiton and Mordor.
That's a long way, by the way.
Oh, dude, it is a long way. Like, because you know you're bored and you're like, oh, so let's find out the distance. Yeah, that's going to take a little bit of time by yourself. When we were thinking about it, it's just like, well, why don't we do something like that as a fundraiser? Because everyone, like, you can still connect virtually. You can share your information via Instagram, Facebook, or even just email. But, like, do it together where we are trying to meet this goal. And it's like, oh, yeah, like, that's so smart. Like, we can get different tiers and stuff like that. So, like, I'm proudly saying I'm a hobbit just because I'm walking. So like we did like the Hobbit tier, the Elf tier, which is our runners, and then our riders of Rohan, which are anybody that's doing biking during that time. And we're proud to say we do have one rider of Rohan that signed up under our fellowship. I was like, oh no, we got a bunch of hobbits and elves. What are we going to do? But no, it's a lot of fun. And like Lord of the Rings is so ingrained, like it's almost seen as not nerdy. Like you can talk to most Christian families and they're like, oh yeah, Lord of the Rings, that's the stuff, man. Like there's Jesus in that. It's like, yeah. Okay, you obviously didn't read anything about J.R. Tolkien, but sure, like we'll go with that. Like there's teachable moments, but it's like but it's just connected. It's a large scale. And so we figured we can connect with that. And then with people that like to be physically fit, like I got a guy on our staff who's all into weightlifting. He does a program called Bibles and Barbells and legitimately goes around and just does lift weights. And then afterwards they do a Devo. I'm like, oh, well, the walking or running and biking can get anyone who wants to be physically active or like maybe has as their goal the Mordor that they're trying to face a physical thing. And that was more for me. It's like, man, I need to get out and do some more walking because this pandemic had me just kind of sitting, staying at home, and you start getting cabin fever, and all of a sudden your Funko Pops start turning their heads without you even touching them, and you start freaking out because of so
I just want
yeah.
to tell you this. I don't want to take time or anything. Just to say,
No, for
so
sure.
I've got a lightsaber. I got a lightsaber for my birthday,
Yeah.
and it's a ultra saber. It's metal. It's strong. Like the handle is. I put a hole in my roof, just play in my ceiling because it's that sturdy. And it was one of these nights I was up late doing something stupid, and I would just swing my lightsaber around. And one of those moments with your Funko heads turn on their own. I didn't realize that when your lightsaber on this specific company, when your lightsaber batteries are dying, it talks.
Oh no.
So it's like 4:00 in the morning. I'm burnt out mentally, physically, spiritually. I'm on a crispy edge of destruction, and and like my lightsaber starts making this weird noise I've never heard. It goes and like shuts down, like the soul's been sucked in, and it goes obsidian, and I'm like and I like legit panicked. And if you want to find it, like look up ultra saber battery depletion or whatever. The audio's on there.
Oh man,
it straight makes this super creepy like demonic obsidian noise, and it freaked me out. So yeah, avoid your Funkos talking and turning their heads. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Oh, okay, that's just an awesome image to have now in the back of my head. Now that's beautiful. I'm gonna do that right after our chat. I gotta research this. But yeah, so we had brought this idea to our executive director just to kind of review it, and he's like, "Oh man, this is great." We set it up in 2 weeks because originally we had another fundraiser that we had planned out where we were going to be doing a Catan tournament, but with everyone being afraid of COVID and not wanting to be able to interact, and even like the cleaning process of it, we just kind of had to say Catan is not going to be a thing until the pandemic is done. So then we were left with, well, what do we do for fundraising? And so then this is where we've had this opportunity and be able to have conversation and even take the opportunity with our weekly videos to share, not only is this a nerdy fundraiser, but it's got a spiritual mindset to it after all as well. And like, how are we engaging our students? So even during the week, I talk to our students, what is your Mordor? What is that thing that you're facing that you need to set some goals to conquer? Or you just kind of let it overrule your life? Are you going to let it dominate? And is it depression? Is it isolation? Is it anxiety? Is it even just something that you don't think is a big deal or shouldn't be a big deal to other people, but to you it's a huge deal? Like, what is that thing? And just working on confronting that together. And we've been seeing people being willing to share that. Different people are coming in with different things. Some of it is even just self-confidence. Some of them are having a hard time with the idea of being self-confident. And so that's what their Mordor is by doing this, that they're stepping out and being more confident in themselves, that they can accomplish something. And it's like, man, that's amazing. And that's the very story of Christ, right? That we can't do it on our own. And Christ is very much like that Samwise Gamgee. Like, we as Frodo, we're going to suck at it. We're going to give up. We're going to eventually at some point just go, like, to heck with it. But Sam is there as that support. He will carry us through the situation and pull us in any kind of way, even with our own stubborn nature. And more and more, like, me and my wife have been binge watching Lord of the Rings throughout this time too, and just reflecting on, like, man, like, Christ really does so much for us, and he's really pushed us to fight our doom. And obviously we can't do it on our own. We have to have him. And so it's just encouraging our students that, like, you're not alone in this fight. That, yeah, we're here, but ultimately not just us, but, like, Christ legitimately did all that work for you, and offering that opportunity for them. So, yeah, it's been both a fundraiser and an opportunity to share the gospel in some ways too.
So how can, I know I posted about it, and I'm going to make sure I do more as well as coming up, but how can people actually give to this, and what can they do to be a part of it?
Yeah, so they can check out at qyu.ca/walktomordor. Just some details on what all the specifics are behind Walk to Mordor. And pledging is a big support for us, being able to sponsor a walker like you, Hector, or me personally, or any other participant. Just to be able to help in that support, but even just to share, like, what is your Mordor? Like, let's share in the experience. Let's understand that and dive into that language of, like, what are we facing? Because COVID really brought that out, that we all kind of have been going through isolation. We all have some form of anxiety that's been hitting us, and it comes to a head, and it just creates a whole bunch of chaos. And so let's confront that. Let's have a conversation on, like, what are the things that we're facing, being able to share that with one another, and find somebody that is like your Sam, or find somebody that is willing to invest in you. Because if you don't have those people, it is a lonely and hard road. And
Okay.
yeah.
So the fundraiser runs through October.
Yep. Ends on October 31st.
And the goal is that through the fellowship, all the people that are participating, we're going to cover the amount of ground from Hobbiton to Mordor.
Yeah, we've got a bit of distance still to go on that one.
But it's not too late for people to join in, right? Like,
oh no, yeah. And if you sign up even now, like, then the only thing is we're just honoring the commitment to the follow-up of where you signed up to then what would be like the 31 days of that. Then you have that time for that distance. But we are looking for our funds to come in by October 31st. And
okay.
So each participant that signs up only has to raise $200. Like, this legitimately is the easiest kind of fundraiser that you can be doing. You can ask your grandma, you can ask your aunt that you talk to every once in a while. Like my mother-in-law, she lives in a retirement community, and she brought it up to her knitting club, and legitimately was just like, hey, so this is my son-in-law's ministry, would you be able to support? She surpassed her $200 just in that one conversation with that group. And, like, the opportunity is out there. And if you need any answers or ideas on how to do that, I'd love to have a conversation on that. No problem with that.
All right. So before we get out of here, because I just want to give you time to get to the things you're doing as well.
For sure.
What is one thing you would want people to take away from what your heart for ministry is, what graphicword is about? Like, what's one thing you would want them to take away from this?
Yeah. Really, my heart is our motto is engaging young heroes to level up their lives. And really the first step is even, like, how do you see yourself as a hero? Not that it's all on you, but, like, dismantling the culture that you're just an ordinary person. You weren't just designed ordinary. There's a loving God that created you, specifically you, that you were meant for this time, this place, and he invests in you. So there's a purpose, there's a drive, and he is one who enables you, encourages you. But that means every single day we're looking at what is our level up opportunity. Like a video game, we gotta look for those opportunities, and we gotta look for our drive to do them. Because if we aren't doing that, it's going to be a struggle, and it's easy to back away from that. Like, I get that COVID had me in that level of just like, oh man, I I want to just chill. I don't want to be pushing. But really, the difference between those that get noted in stories like Lord of the Rings and those that don't are the ones that are pushing the drive. They're looking for those opportunities to level up. And really, Philippians 1 verse 6 talks about like how God started to work in us, right? And he will see it to the end and completion. And we need to be looking for that and always excelling. Where's Christ in this? How can I be more like Christ and level up myself in that way? So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, in the text and show notes and everything that'll be on this, on all the podcast formats, we're going to have the links to the graphic word. We're going to have the links to all of the ministry details with this, as where you can support, where you can pledge. And if you want to be a part of this, or if you just want to send some encouragement their way, please do that. And we're looking forward to just seeing how all this plays out. And I've got some stuff planned for me as well for what we're going to do with this. So I've got some ideas coming.
Nice.
But dude, thank you for spending some time talking with me, man. For real.
Oh, dude. Thank you.
I'm really encouraged by you and what you're doing. And, it's that whole thing of like, we're less alone than we always imagine. And it's nice to know like you're up there, because more than likely I'm never going to touch Canada. Like, I'm never going to Canada.
It's understandable.
Like, that's the, I've got my friend, Chris Cook, that does, One Cross Radio. He's up in, I don't know, Canada's big. I don't know what Canada looks like. But it's a thing up north. But I know he's in Canada doing, like a podcast and radio ministry. And I'm like, we've talked. I was like, man, it'd be cool to get up there. I'm like, I'd love to, but I'm like, I don't know what that looks like. But so even if I know that I might not never set foot there. Like, it's just like one of those things of like, well, I don't really need to. Y'all are there. I'm good. And,
that's fair, man.
Oddly enough, like, I don't know, like, if it's just you or whoever, but like, there's a decent amount of Canadians buying my books.
Oh,
like,
dude.
Like when I'm looking at the geography breakdown on like my like reports, I'm like, what? Where is okay? Because like it all breaks down differently. That's cool. But man, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out, but also just how you continue your ministry throughout the year. So I hope you got some great blessings on your way, dude.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And anytime you need any help, bro, I'd love to invest too. We're in this together. We're doing nerdy ministry and keep on investing in those around us. So yeah, got your back.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, y'all have a great day. See you later.
You too.